What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 schedule preview and projected record series. Texas Tech up next, a team that had a pretty solid season last year, going 8-5, 7-5 in the regular season. But they had a pretty solid year. Our projection for them last year was 6-6. I personally picked them to go 6-6 as well. So let's take a look at the schedule and see what the projection is for 2023. Again, 8-5, the record last year. This is the schedule. They will open up on the road at Wyoming on September 2nd. That's an interesting game there. I don't expect Wyoming to be too much of a challenge, but going on the road to play at Wyoming is kind of odd to start off the season for a Power 5 team. They'll play Oregon the next week on September 9th. That's going to be a tough one, of course. Tarleton State the next week on September 16th. So they'll play their 3 non-conference games right out of the gate. Then they move into Big 12 play on September 23rd. They'll open up with a road game at West Virginia. Then they'll play Houston on September 30th. Next, it's on the road at Baylor on October 7th. Then they get Kansas State on the 14th. Follow that up with another road game. This time it's at BYU on the 21st. They get a bye week after playing BYU. So they get a bye week after BYU, and then they play on a Thursday night against TCU. So you get the bye week before a Thursday game. That's always nice. That'll be a tough one, of course, against TCU, but then they'll have a little more time to prepare for the next game on the road at Kansas on November 11th. UCF will come next on November 18th, and then they close things out with Texas on the road for the last time in the Big 12, of course, and that'll be on the Friday after Thanksgiving. So they have a Thursday night game against TCU, a Friday game against Texas. I really like the schedule here if I'm Texas Tech, because the fact that they have no back-to-back road games. They have a bye week before their Thursday night game. That is nice. They actually play 3 of the 4 new teams. They play Houston, BYU, and UCF, but they will not play Cincinnati. And then you look at the teams they play that they don't play from the teams that were in the Big 12 last year, the original Big 12 teams. They don't play Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. And so that means that Texas Tech will not play Oklahoma again in the Big 12. It will never happen. They also don't play Iowa State. Maybe you'd like to play them. Although I think Iowa State could be a sneaky team next year. Don't count them out. But yeah, not playing Oklahoma is, I think, good. I think that team has a chance to be pretty good this year. I think that definitely will be improved. Oklahoma State, who knows? So, it's a decent draw for them. You'd rather maybe play Iowa State and not have to play TCU or something like that. But they do avoid, again, Cincinnati. That's the one newcomer that they will not play. And again, I really like this way the schedule is balanced. They have no really tough back-to-back games. They have no back-to-back road games. This is just a really well-balanced schedule for Texas Tech. And it gives them a chance. We'll see if they can be a contender in the Big 12 this season. So again, our projection last year was 6-6. They beat that. They went 7-5. This is the scale that we'll be using for the projection. So if it's in the white, that means it's a 50-50 game, a game that could really go either way, a game where I think the spread will be less than a touchdown. If it's in the red, I'd say that's going to be a game. Red or green, those are games where I think the spread will be over 20 points, games that really should not be close. The orange and the blue, those are games that I think the spread will be double digits, 10 to 19 points. Then the yellow and purple, that's going to be, those are games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points in that range. So let's get into it here for Texas Tech. We'll start with the easy wins. I think you got a couple of them. Although Wyoming is, it's the opening game of the season. It's on the road. Maybe that one's, closer to 90% than it is to 99%, but still I think that is a game that Texas Tech should win. Tarleton State should be an easy win, no problem there. So those are your 2 easy wins. But then when you're in the Big 12, you don't really have any guaranteed wins. You used to could maybe say Kansas was almost guaranteed because of how bad they were, but no longer, you can't really say that anymore. The Big 12, there's a lot of parity in this conference. There are no easy wins. It is a grind, and it's always a lot of fun, but no easy wins for them. So these are the only 2 easy wins. I do think there's some games where they'll be favored by about a touchdown. West Virginia, although it is on the road, I think they'll be favored by about a touchdown against Houston at home. BYU, I think they'll be favored in that one as well. And then Kansas on the road, I think Texas Tech favored by about a touchdown in that game. But again, all these games, probably the spread 6, 7, 8 points. No really big spread, no huge advantage for Texas Tech. But I do think that they will be favored in these games. I do think they'll be favored in these 4 games. So those 4 games we're going to say they'll be favored in, but not by a ton. Those are not guaranteed wins, games that they could potentially lose, but they, like I said, should be the clear favorites. How about the other side, games where they'll be underdogs? You've got Oregon, TCU, and Texas. I think Texas Tech will be about a touchdown underdog in all of these games. They get Oregon at home. That's why I'm going to keep this one closer to 8 or 9 points. TCU also at home on a Thursday night. Perhaps that's a 50-50 game. We'll see what the teams look like, once they get to that point. And then Texas, that's going to be a tough one. I think they'll definitely be an underdog there, but they did beat Texas last year, so you never know. And again, that'll be the final conference game for Texas in the Big 12. Texas Tech would love to send them out with a loss. So that's going to be a big game, rivalry there to close out the season. And again, these 3 games, I think, will be games that really the only 3 games where Texas Tech will be a clear underdog, meaning if you win the 50-50 games, you win the games you're favored in, Texas Tech could go 9-3 without pulling off any major upsets. Of course, that's easier said than done. That means Baylor, Kansas State, and UCF, those are the 50-50 games. These are all games that I could really see going either way. Baylor, I'm expecting to be improved. It's on the road. Baylor probably favored in that one, but not by a ton. Maybe just a field goal. Kansas State, that's a toss-up right there. It is at Texas Tech. That helps. UCF is a home game. I think Texas Tech probably favored by 3 or 4 points in that game as well. But Baylor, Kansas State, UCF, those are the big swing games. So if they win the games in purple, they win the games in the green, that's 6 wins right there. And then it all comes down to, again, how they do in these 50-50 games. Or maybe they can steal one of these in the yellow. Maybe they can pull off an upset. You never know. But our projection, the way we do it was we average out all these games. You count the green games as wins. Those are wins. We don't have any red games, so we don't have to count any losses. But yeah, we average everything else out to get a projection, and that gives us 7-5. So the exact same regular season record as last year for Texas Tech. A pretty fair projection given the schedule, but like I said, I like how this schedule sets up. No back-to-back road games, no Oklahoma. The tough games are spread out. You see the games in the yellow, those are going to be the toughest games. Well, they're all kind of spread out there. So that gives them a chance, I think, to potentially be a dark horse, a team that could get to 9-3 or something, maybe even 10-2, you never know. But there are enough games on this schedule that could potentially trip them up to where you could see them going 6-6 or maybe even 5-7. So 7-5, I think, is a pretty fair projection, and I think that's probably around where this Texas Tech team will be. So yeah, Texas Tech 7-5. That's the projection for them in 2023.